Running. At its simplest form, it's one foot in front of the other, but for millions it's more, a test for the body, a release for the mind, a journey that can change your life. It's one of the UK's most accessible sports. SportsShoe's 2025 report shows 40% of Brits run at least once a week, with over a quarter running 2 to 3 times weekly, a 5% rise since last year. Running also has a darker side. Injuries, burnout, and lonely miles that test you as much as the finish line. At its best, it unites people, forging friendships and bonds in sweat. It's not about medals, it's about connection, resilience, and running for yourself. I'm Alex Brattesani, exploring the Scottish running community to discover why we run and what keeps us coming back. This is The Pursuit of Running.
Say cheese.
I'm here at a very sunny, lively and busy Portobello Beach in Edinburgh, which is a really popular spot for local runners to come by for a jog or even join a local running club. I caught up with Ollie Gardner, one of the founders of Good Time Running Club, to see what it's all about and to chat to a few of their runners.
So Good Time actually started about 3.5 years ago now, and it was a really weird one. So I started running during lockdown and got out of this WhatsApp running club, and it was really mad. The premise was that each week the slowest runner in this club was kicked out of the WhatsApp chat, and it was like, oh, this is what running is. I've never done it before, and then it got so bad that I was like, you know what, I'm actually just going to start my own thing, and it's going to be the complete opposite, and we're going to call it Good Time, and we're going to have a good time. So it was going to be a WhatsApp run club, and I linked in with my old friend Craig, who I do the club with, and we decided to just do it in person. Like, lockdown was ending, we could go to the pub, we thought we'd just do something nice and social. Predominantly it's just a space for people to come, turn off their brain a little bit and meet like-minded people, feel comfortable in the space that is running, I guess, which sounds really over the top, but I think it's quite a daunting, any sport environment can be quite daunting, especially if you're brand new to it. I think predominantly the club is there to facilitate that.
According to an article by National Geographic, run clubs benefit not only your physical health but also your relationships. Running encourages the release of endorphins, and when they're released, they help you relax, lift your mood and reduce anxiety. With these facts in mind, I wanted to find out more about why runners decide to join this run club.
I started getting back into it maybe about sort of 8 months ago, and then I kind of started doing some solo stuff, and then I started doing park run actually, then I started doing some solo stuff, and now it's just nice to do it as a group because you meet new people, meet new friends, but you keep doing the same activity that you've been enjoying doing. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, I've not that much running. I usually go to the gym or do weights, but this is a nice way to get outside and get yourself into running.
So I used to run alone a lot of the time, and then I decided I would try and run with some people, and it turns out it's quite nice. I also heard this thing, and I don't know if it's true, but when you run with a group of people, your heart rate's lower because you feel more comfortable, and I think that's true, even if the science isn't there. So I joined because I want to run with people.
This year, more than 1.1 million people entered the London Marathon ballot, and great run events jumped 39% led by Gen Z. I asked Ollie for his take on the sudden boom.
I think I've had this conversation with so many people now. I grew up in a house where if you weren't watching the Tour de France or athletics, your only option was Emmerdale. So running has always been cool to me, but I'd say it's very, very relevant right now. I don't know if it's just sort of, I don't even know what they call it, pop culture, celebrities are running. It's shifting away from spending weekends in the pub, and people want to get up and do their long run. I guess there's an element of fashion in it as well. Running used to be, I used to get my running stuff from Aldi, big up Crane, was that Lidl? I can't remember. But now running's very fashionable, and I think that plays into it. People want to look good, they want to wear the running kit, and I guess there's an element of being well, if I'm going to wear that stuff, I should maybe go for a run, and it's sort of feeding into each other. I don't know. It's one of those things, I can tell you how it's happened. But I think more people getting into it can't be a bad thing.
Good Time Running highlights how community lies at the heart of the sport. My search for running's deeper appeal took me to the Trackstar Series, Scotland's first cash prize event, hosted by Edinburgh coach Mark Baxter. Working with runners of all levels, Mark champions the idea that running is a sport for all.
Everyone can run, as much as some people say that they can't. They can give it a go. Getting a pair of trainers and heading out the door. And I think the fact that it's available to everyone, regardless of your background, where you live, what country you're in, running is available to everyone. The facilities might be different elsewhere, but anyone can give it a go and try it. And I think the fact that it has so many benefits, mentally, physically, I think that's why it's so popular and why it's taken off. I actually, can't think of a reason not to run, because it's got so many positives and pulling factors to make it that attractive as a sport, and it's only going to keep growing.
Despite his positivity, Mark's journey hasn't been without struggle. After a life-changing injury, doctors told him he would never run again. Yet his story reflects the quiet resilience at the heart of running.
I was training hard for London Marathon. It was one marathon that I really wanted to perform well in. So my training was hard, like marathon training, I was on that knife edge, training very intense, volume was high. Got a niggle about a week before it, didn't really worry about it, it was just really tight hip. Ran the race, started great, was on track to reach my goal. And then at mile 20, all of a sudden, I felt like a snap in my hip. At first I thought I'd torn a muscle, or it was a grade 3 tear. Found it very difficult to walk, I was in excruciating pain. Fortunately the St John's ambulance team were present and they took me off in a wheelchair. I had to leave the course. It wasn't actually until I got home back to Edinburgh that when I was in A&E in the Royal Infirmary Hospital, I had discovered that it was actually broken. So my femur at my hip was split in two. They had to operate on it the morning after by placing a dynamic hip screw in my left hip, which essentially is a 20 centimetre titanium plate with 4 screws, which is still in there. And then it was a recovery from there. So it was very much a tough time, but one that definitely gave me a different outlook on running, and I feel very blessed and fortunate to be in this position now, training and helping others.
Mark's experience highlights the exceptional grit required to bounce back from a life-changing injury. Yet, it's important to acknowledge that fear, obstacles and uncertainty can often stand in the way of athletes striving to overcome challenges. In Holyrood Park, a place central to his competitive years, I caught up with ex-Scottish national runner, now sports journalist Aidan Gilbride, about his running story and how his career took an unexpected turn.
I went out to university in New Hampshire and, I was very young and immature. I think that it's probably fair to say. There was a race, I'd done a race and I felt a weird sensation in my groin, and I pulled my groin when I was younger at a very abnormal age. Like, I remember the doctor saying you shouldn't be developed enough to pull your groin, but I did. It felt like a groin strain. I was like, how have I had a groin strain in a 5K race? It got progressively worse. It got to the point where I would have to push down on my leg to get off the couch. I would wake up in pain. Most days I would run with a limp almost every single run, and it got to the end of the year, and everything that had happened was so unbelievably hard on me that I just ended up having to say, right, I need to just go home for a year. Went to a private hospital, Ross Hall, where I got a bone scan, and I'd had loads of MRIs and x-rays up until that point, just kept diagnosing with stress fractures, stress reactions, and then they actually ended up finding out what it was. Called FAI hip impingement. It basically means that my femur bone grew, it kind of developed, and it was too large, and so it was rubbing up against all my cartilage and the rest of my my hip joint and stuff like that, which was causing all the stress fractures. Sometimes I feel positively about the fact that I know I wasn't doing anything incorrect, but other times I wake up and I think, why me? Why was I born that way? And it basically told me it's a simple surgery. It's not a major surgery, but they did say, you can't let this go on any further, or you probably will be looking at hip replacement. So it was just keyhole surgery. It was called a hip arthroscopy, I think. So they repaired all the cartilage damage. They basically shaved down my femur bones so that it wouldn't continue to cause that problem. So I got that all fixed, and then I went back out to America to school in North Carolina, where I finished 4 years there. Got right back to the kind of level I was at before I left, and then I came home after graduating. The happiest I've ever been. I started to think really that there was a chance that I could get back on track where I was before I left. And then one winter's morning, I just went out a run and I felt the exact same feeling in my right hip. And it was devastating because you know yourself when you've dealt with something that's so familiar. I knew it was the same thing. The difference was this time I was back home. The NHS is under incredible stress, and I can understand that, and it's not a criticism, it's just the way things are in the UK now. And I'm now on the waiting list to get my right hip done, but I know I lived the life before of running on it, and I made myself miserable, so I've had to kind of hold off when I was running, which is hard.
After chatting about the physical effects of his injury, Aidan touches on the mental health aspects of sport and how running plays a big part in this side of his story.
For me, the reason that my mental health took a dive was I didn't realise just how big a place it was in my life until I didn't have it anymore. Because it feels like a part of you is just kind of ripped away. Anytime I felt down or rubbish, or I had a bad race, or I'd had an argument with my dad or my mum, running was always that outlet to de-stress me and get out. Imagine having that for almost 2 decades, and then it's just ripped away from you, and then you don't have that outlet anymore. You need to work out, what is my other outlet, how do I have another outlet? And the sad reality is some people's outlets are not healthy in comparison to running.
From one professional stage to another, this next runner is one of a kind. Ultramarathon runner, Ironwoman, triathlete and Omnia Performance social media manager Kelly Egan began running again in her mid-20s and has participated in some incredible challenges worldwide. She is someone I find inspiring and a great influence, encouraging others to step outside their comfort zones and attempt things they once believed were impossible.
I first started off doing a half marathon in leisure shoes with absolutely no real training, but I knew that I enjoyed it from that point. And then I moved into triathlon and eventually got to Ironman stage within those 12 months, purely because I wanted to see if I could do it. And I did enjoy that. I really enjoyed the longer distance. But the first time I really knew that I was hooked was when I did 100K a year ago, and I just loved every part of it. I could just enjoy the scenery. There was no pressure to go as fast or be on all the time. You could just kind of sit back and just enjoy the views and just play the long game, and that's when I really knew that I was hooked.
I asked Kelly how she dealt with pressure and comparison in endurance running. In return, she emphasised the importance of discovering your why and setting goals.
Back to whenever you do start running or start in whatever athletic pursuit, is your why you're running. What's the main goal? Do you want to beat somebody on Strava, or do you want to be as good as this particular person, or do you want to do it because of yourself? So I went through a stage in my career where I was comparing myself to every athlete and trying to be the best that I am best. But at the same time, I was losing enjoyment from what I was doing. And it got to the point where I switched from Ironmans to ultra marathons, and I was able to think, okay, why am I doing this? Because I genuinely enjoy being outside. So there is definitely there can be a lot of pressure, but as long as you stick to your why and the enjoyment side of things, then I think you'll do well. The point where I did this 100-kilometer race, and that kind of really switched things for me, because I was running and the sun was coming up, and it was just an amazing experience. I'm chatting to people along the way, and I'm like, you forgot about this. You forgot that this is the whole point of why you run and why you do what you do. There's always going to be somebody that is better than you, no matter if you're the best of the best. You've just got to remember that, and you can't compare yourself to others. You've just got to keep staying in your own lane, challenge yourself where you need to, but also hold back and realize that it's okay to go for a run without your watch and just go to the trails and nobody needs to know about it, that's fine too.
As someone who works in social media, Kelly offered an interesting view on how the perception of women in endurance sport has evolved over time and how this has influenced women to take up running.
Going to the news, women's sport is having a lot more media coverage these days, and some of the women have done incredible things. You see Courtney Dauwalter, you see Jasmine Paris, and you think that is absolutely incredible. I want to be part of this. And I have always been the kind of person who wants to participate whether there's women or not. And I've just always had that sort of mindset. If the guys can do it, I want to do it too. And just to be able to scroll through social media and just see all these women doing amazing things, other people want to get involved, or other women want to get involved. And I just feel like it's a lot more accessible. And there are running groups around the world who just cater for women and just make it a comfortable experience. And I think it's a listen. I personally took up running for any sort of athletic pursuit post cross country. It was probably when I was 27, and then that's when I went all in, because I saw people on Instagram and YouTube, and I just wanted to kind of follow along and do exactly what they did. And I was able to do that because I had that information quite handy. And I feel like in the running world, a few years ago, social media was all about how you looked and about the gym, and it's all about appearances. But I feel like there's kind of been a bit of a turn in the way that now it's like, let's do some hard things, let's go to running and let's see if I can run a marathon. It just feels more performance based, which is kind of exciting, because not everything is about what you look like, and it's about how you feel doing it. And I think that's taking more of a turn in the past couple of years post-COVID.
Kelly was set to compete in the Backyard Ultra at Blair Athol a week after this interview, but sadly she had to withdraw due to injury. I attended the event to learn more about it, and I was simply amazed.
I am here on the grounds of Blair Castle in Blair Athol, Scotland, for the Highlander Last Man Standing Backyard Ultra. It's a really exciting day, despite the very dreich on and off Scottish weather, but it's tradition, I guess. We've got hundreds of runners here just having the time of their lives, really. It's not about time, it's not about speed, it's how long you can last for, and we'll see who the last person standing is. So let's get to it.
Runners tackled a 4.167 mile loop each hour on the hour, navigating through tough terrain and the unpredictable Scottish weather. Yet the atmosphere was like no other, with participants staying positive and encouraging each other through every lap. After talking with Kelly and watching the Backyard Ultra, it was clear how inviting and exciting these sort of events are through the power of community and pushing boundaries. While watching some of the runners return minutes before the next round, I decided to reflect.
It's a completely different challenge from doing a marathon, half a marathon, 5 kilometres, 10 kilometres, any race with a distance. It's definitely equally mentally and physically, emotionally challenging, because there's no end result, there's no end distance, unless you're setting yourself that goal. Like today someone might be like, oh, I'm just going to run a half marathon, or I'm just going to run one loop and see how it goes. And then some people are like, no, I want to be that last person standing, or maybe they've set themselves a goal for how long they want to run for. It's completely different for the individual, and I think it's a really good event to show the true grit of running.
Running is one of the most accessible sports in the world, but no two journeys are ever the same. Some find community, others strength, and some are forced to confront the limits of their body and mind. The medals, the personal bests, social media posts, they only tell part of the story. Behind them are struggles, setbacks, and quiet battles that shape runners just as much as success. Running is a connection, a hardship, and a triumph. This is the pursuit of running.